Let's start. As always, each new solution comes to solve an older problem. What was the basis for the emergence of BLIK? In other words, what problem was meant to be solved with the launch of BLIK?
You know, this is a very good question because it was already almost 10 years ago when the solution was being launched on the market. And, the strategic diagnosis at that time was was simply to create a payment standard, the payment system with a specific banking alliance in Poland with, let's say, six largest Polish banks, trying to come up with a simple answer that would be to provide a local and, let's say, proprietary solution that would be extremely competitive against entrants from outside, especially big techs. And the strategic need was simply to preserve and really to protect the relationship between the customer and the bank. And the solution that was designed at that time within our BLIK ecosystem was simply, and this is always the case, just to protect the relationship between the bank and the customer. Because third-party solutions are distracting customers from this relationship with the bank, and in order to guarantee a trust with and credibility, I would say, in long-term perspective between a bank and the customer, there was a really significant need to provide a payment solution that would be fully independent of global solutions, of global schemes, of global big techs. And this was, let's say, the case from the business perspective. We might also say that there has always been a lack of user experience. There has always been a lack of fast, I would say, secure and very, very convenient solution for customers. I remember at that time, we were principally confronted to the card solutions, mainly chip and pin. It was very initial phase of contactless, let's say, technology at that time. And we were quite successful with our shareholders to come up with the product at the right time with the right decisions.
I imagine that it was quite challenging, this initiative. What was the main obstacle in launching BLIK? It was legislation, technology, or simply the difficulty of convincing more banks to join the initiative?
I would say that a little bit of all, because when you are launching a solution which is completely new, which is potentially supposed to disrupt the market with completely new customer behavior, first of all, the most important challenge is, of course, to convince the large audience and, I would say, very important market share of customers just to use the solution. And in order to do it, you must really, as a payment scheme, as a payment system, as a payment platform, you must really offer very clear, let's say, value-added services that would be really attractive for customers. So I would say that on one side, legislation, of course, we were at that time when we were launching this solution, you must bear in mind that it was still pre-PSD2 era. We were entering the era PSD2. At that time, I do remember, let's say, consulting the technical standards for PSD2. Later on, of course, so the legislation was changing over time, all the time. Convincing banks, definitely, it was extremely important. But taking into account that our solution is really strengthening, as I was mentioning in my previous point, is really strengthening the relationship between the bank and the customer, we didn't really have a lot of difficulties to convince banks. It was just a matter of resources, of integration and implementation, just of the solution within the banking ecosystems. Right now, you should know that all banks in our country are offering BLIK in the mobile banking applications, which is more or less 20 banks. And let's say the number of applications available for customers right now is achieving 28 million. So we would say that the whole population of mobile banking users in our country has BLIK at the disposal of the mobile banking application. And definitely, on one side business matters, on the other side acceptance network that was also extremely important to organize, because what value would we be able to provide to customers if the acceptance network didn't exist at that time? So we needed to combine all the elements at the very short period of time to be successful.
What goals do you set out with in 2015, the moment of your launch? Do you think at that time you believe that in less than 1 year you will hit first million of clients, or how was the figures at that time?
Yeah, to be honest, we started with 1 million.
Okay.
Precisely with this number. I really remember the very first day of commercial launch of BLIK in Poland, and the availability of, availability of customers that would have this access to our technology was just limited to 1 million. It was a number of applications that 6 banks had at the disposal at that time. So you can probably calculate that within this almost 10-year period, we have made a journey. We traveled the journey, we might say, from 1 million to 28. And it was a really exciting journey for BLIK and the technology we are providing to the market.
My next question is, when did you realize that the solution has traction in the market and will be a success? But I understood from you that very from the beginning with that 1 million.
Yeah, but having 1 million apps at that time didn't really mean that there were 1 million active customers at that time. Having the reach to 1 million of customers within mobile banking applications, at that time, we didn't really have 1 million active customers. We really needed to combine, on one side, activation of new banks, because 6 banks, it was more or less 60% of market share of the mobile retail market share that BLIK was starting exactly at that moment. And at the same time, we really needed to combine a sufficient acceptance network. It couldn't be a matter of years to provide the acceptance network for the existing 6 banks. It had to be a very, very rapid and very, very quick action. So achieving 100% availability for example, in all Polish e-commerce was just a matter of 1 year, 1.5 years. If we wanted to build the acceptance network throughout 2, 3, 5 years, it wouldn't be attractive for customers, because customer doesn't really have a mercy for the solution. If the solution works fine, if the acceptance network is really attractive for the customer, there is a slight probability that we would be successful. Probability. We were never sure about the success at the very beginning. And this is why it was an extremely high responsibility for us. Because on one side, please imagine that we had 6 largest Polish banks creating a separate joint venture to provide the technology for the market. And what could we do not to be successful at that time? It had to be successful, even if there were very, very, very few transactions at the very beginning of existing of our solution. And I would say that we started in February 2015. As I told you, we realized probably by the end of 2015, during the first initial year, that yes, it will work. Definitely, we need to work out the full ecosystem. We needed to come up with new products. We really needed to enlarge the portfolio of our product at that time. We really needed to work on communication to customers. We really needed to pay a lot of attention with the value-added services that we were bringing to banks and for the customers. And definitely, end 2015, within the company, we were sure that it would be successful. But of course, long-term strategy needed to be executed, which was, as I told you, a journey of this last 10 years of building this solution right now in Poland.
Seems like your strategy was executed just fine. 9 years after that moment, BLIK has 16 million active users, which is huge. We are also talking about 1.9 billion of transactions only in 2023. What matters most in the adoption?
course, you probably should take into account that there's 1.8 billion of transactions, which is huge, definitely, which is, in our opinion, number one platform in terms of the when we just simply create a definition of digital, new type of digital platforms, payment solutions that banks provide to customers in specific European countries. We would say this 1.9 billion of transaction is the top number, placing BLIK in the position on number one in Europe in terms of the number of transactions. We would say that, and this is extremely important to take into account, that more or less 60% of all of these transactions consist of e-commerce transactions. And even more, 70% of Polish e-commerce transactions just simply BLIK transactions. So we would say that 7 transactions out of 10 is made with BLIK in the market. The missing 3 is partially traditional account transaction, maybe some account-to-account open API, PSD2 type of open banking transactions, and some of them are old-fashioned pay by links, and probably some of them are some cash payments as well. So the biggest success of BLIK is really in Poland, and this is an overwhelming success, I would say, is just being a payment method number one in Polish commerce with really significant market share. And e-commerce is really driving BLIK transactions, even if P2P instant transfers between individuals, BLIK contactless in POSs, even ATM with BLIK are those products that are still growing very, very high. This is principally e-commerce that is our, let's say, most important visit card, I would say, for the Polish market in BLIK. Yeah.
You anticipate a bit my next question related to numbers. What does the profile of the BLIK user look like, and how do they utilize it? I mean, e-commerce, paying bills, money transfer. You already say a few of that.
Yes, e-commerce is a huge definition, definitely. We have, disposing of 70% of market share. We have a full penetration of the whole segment in Poland. Of course, the most important marketplaces, with our leading Allegro on the market, with, let's say, the most significant retailers. Probably the majority of the retailers are exactly the same retailers that you know from Romanian market as well. We've got a lot of new type of, let's say, mobile services that are provided to customers, and BLIK as a payment method is perfectly fitting with mobile user experience. We know very well that e-commerce is switching very much to what we would define as m-commerce. Everything is really starting to be really embedded in our mobile devices. I would say laptop type of transacting is becoming a little bit obsolete, let's say, in this area. Everything is just going to the mobile and into the devices, mobile devices the customer dispose of. And of course, mobile banking application, which is a platform that provides BLIK as a payment method to customer, is a perfect fit for this m-commerce and mobile banking, combining them all together. And this is why I would say the most significant part of our product portfolio is really e-commerce transactions.
You ended last year with 16 million active users and almost 2 billion transactions. What are your expectations for this year?
Yeah, we are planning to do at least 50-60% more. The trajectory of growth is still quite high, even though the penetration of the, let's say, e-commerce transaction is very high in the Polish market. We still see a lot of space for growth in the P2P instant payments transactions. And last but not least, we still see space for growth for very interesting type of transactions, which is BLIK contactless. Here we are really successfully competing against the big techs like Apple Pay and Google Pay, and this is why we'll be putting a lot of effort and energy right now in our market just to promote even more this type of transaction, because e-commerce is there. P2P instant transfer is definitely a highly successful part of our business. And right now we'll be scaling even more our contactless and POS type of transaction in Poland.
Well, that will be all for today. Dariusz, it was a pleasure. Very interesting interview. What can I say more? I hope to see you in autumn, in November, when we organize Banking 4.0. It's our international event focused on the emerging technology and their impact on the future of the banking system.
I feel invited.
Thank you. Please do. Till then,
thank you.
All the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you. See you. Goodbye.
My pleasure, Dariusz. Bye.
Thank you.